So having a, what did I say, blanket, towel, and bolster pillow handy, and we'll start on our backs. Huh. Just finding your way into a place where your spine can feel settled. Oh, letting the arms and legs come into a position where your body feels comfortable. Maybe allowing your eyes to close. There's this beautiful, well decorated, perfectly positioned, and incredibly bright lantern that hangs above this dark forest path. Finding your fluid ease within your breath, letting the musculature in your body start to down regulate. Find ease. As your spine rests against the neutrality of the mat beneath you. And you think about the entirety of the backside of the torso, little pockets or sections, dividing that whole surface area up so that you can find those spots that are most at ease and neutral, least at ease and neutral. And think about relaxing deeper and deeper into one plane of neutrality. We'll give ourselves 30 more seconds here. Just feeling into the softness beneath us. It feels appropriate for you. Let's bring our knees into a bent position so the kneecaps can point towards the ceiling. And then just add a little dynamic sway with the knees. Just some exploration of space and spine's ability to rotate. And then eventually we'll let both knees fall over to one side or the other. Land there for a moment and use your top hand to help press up into seat. From staff, let's get our spine nice and tall and then just ease our way forward into a fold. the moment that this lantern was hung, it started overhearing words of appreciation for the light that it offered. Travelers would come by, more or less used to the darkness of the forest. And they'd be bathed in this light from this lantern. Sighs of relief might escape their lips. Or a comment to their traveling companion about their gratefulness. Give ourselves just another 30 seconds here. And when it feels appropriate, we'll bring ourselves back up into this nice vertical spine and transition to hands and knees tabletop. From tabletop, let's just have our props handy. So we're going to set up our blanket or towel from shelf fold, a hot dog fold, end up with something like this. Whether we're using a bolster or a pillow, we'll just have that accessible. I'll keep that out of the way so it's not a visual disruption. And from tabletop, let's sink our way back into child's pose. Let the tops of the feet press down into the mat. Let your sacrum sink back into that space. And relax as you settle back here. Think again about the entirety of that posterior of the torso, divided up into sections. And think about how each of those sections can be more at ease. How every breath can give you more room, more space, more ability to sink deeper towards the tailbone or to relax more deeply into a neutral, even engagement of musculature. It feels appropriate for you, fingertips gripping into the mat in front of us. We're going to keep our nose as low as possible. So a lot of times we'll do this in the reverse way. This way we're coming out of child's pose in this horizontal space, heading right into Sphinx. So think about coming forward, adjusting so that the elbows end up underneath the shoulders, fingertips are down, fingertips are engaged into the mat. The glutes are engaged in a way where the lumbar is not in a sensation of compression. So there's enough glute engagement to protect the low back. And then decide what you want to do with your head positioning. The lower the head comes, the more at ease the low back can be. You can find a static position to hang out within. You can also move with inhales, lifting the head, and exhales, releasing the head. But the engagement of the glute tissue here, the quad tissue here, those are the things that are going to provide the protection for the lumbar. So as you're setting up your positioning, really take into account how the glutes and quads are going to be engaged. We'll give ourselves 30 more seconds here. And we'll let our hands stack and let our forehead come down upon those stacked hands for a little crocodile. Really softly landing in a way where the spine can be relaxed and at ease. The more at ease our spine can be here, the better. The more that the lantern heard about its greatness, its benefit, its brightness, its importance, the more that the lantern thought of itself as great, important, and above the other aspects of the forest. In particular, the shadows cast so contrastly by the lantern's light. Let's slide our hands back underneath our shoulders and press ourselves up to tabletop. From tabletop, really find that nice geometry. Let's take our blanket or towel and put that underneath our knees. Now, hot dog fold is the suggestion that I had, but that might not be right for you. If it doesn't feel like a happy angle, feel free to unwind this. We're just looking for a little softness at the knee space. Then we're going to take our bolster or pillow and place that in between the legs. Now, if you're using a pillow, which I don't have a great representation of, a half fold with a gap between your knees and the torso will be best. And then we're going to lower ourselves into a supported child's pose. So pillow structure, you just have the gap between the knees. The torso comes down on that pillow. Maybe you have enough room for your head as well. Gaze can be to the left, it can be neutral, or it can be to the right. Anything that feels ideal for you, really, we want the shoulders to be able to relax. It's kind of our gauge on whether we've found the shape that we're searching for. Once you get to the point where the shoulders relax, then think about the sacrum relaxing. And a little bit differently than we might think about child's pose in general, right? Instead of thinking about energizing back, the sacrum back towards the space behind you, think about relaxing the sacrum so that it can fall vertically straight down to the mat. And so the more that this lantern heard about its greatness, the more that it began to detest the shadows that it cast. And on nights when it shone, when it was at its brightest, the lantern would call down insults to the shadows about their uselessness, about how they obscured the path, made things more difficult for the travelers. We'll give ourselves 60 more seconds here. Remember, the shoulders relax and then the sacrum relaxes. Your body just melting into the prop, to the support. And we'll slide our hands into a place where we can find some strength and press ourselves up high enough to remove that bolster or pillow prop. And shifting our way into tabletop. You can keep that blanket underneath the knees for the moment if it feels beneficial. And with an exhale, let's round our back, tuck our chin, and tuck our tailbone. And with an inhale, let's drop back into child's pose. And land and complete an exhale. And then inhale and come forward to tabletop. And exhale and round the back, tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone. From this rounded shape, we inhale back into child's pose and land into an exhale. And then inhale back into tabletop. And exhale into that cat shape. Inhale, child's pose. Land with an exhale. Inhale to tabletop. Exhale to cat. Inhale to child's pose. Land with an exhale and just be here. Feel how your body can now integrate that spinal space into child's pose. How that articulation in and out of flexion into that gentle extension has built more room to settle into and settle all the way into that room until you make it yours. We'll give ourselves 30 more seconds here. And we'll pull ourselves forward. Tabletop, extend our legs straight out in front of us. Our blanket prop, let's fold that into a block-like shape. So we'll have a couple of choices here. We're going to end up in a supported bridge. If you're using a pillow and you feel like having a little bit more consistent density will be better, you can use that blanket. If not, we can use a bolster or pillow for a little bit more height. So we'll lower ourselves onto our spine, bend the knees so the kneecaps can point towards the ceiling, and then pull that prop underneath the sacrum so that you have support for your bridge. And then we'll relax into this support. So day after day or night after night, lantern burned its brightest. The shadow it cast would be forced to endure these insults. And the shadow had to admit that when travelers came through this section of the forest, none of them ever commented on their output, their benefit. And so, even from the shadow's perspective, the lantern seemed to be something special. As you settle more and more intently into the prop, pay attention to the anterior hip crease. It's kind of been a sneaky focus of class thus far. Think about what you can do with the space in the hip crease to give your body more room in this supported bridge. Let your body be more at ease. More supported. More grounded in this bridge. We'll give ourselves about 60 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate for you, let's give enough energy into the feet that we can get the hips high enough to remove our prop. Let's set that to the side and release our tailbone, the mat. As you're relaxing down here, think about the integration between the lumbar and the hip, the pelvic bowl. about finding a balance of engagement between the ilium resting against the mat and the lumbar structure. Let's engage our blanket. And we'll take that back to shelf fold and then take it out to a towel length. So we end up here and we'll roll that. That roll will create support for our ankles, going over the top and tucking underneath. Bottoms of the feet come together. And the knees fall out wide. Palms face up here towards the ceiling so that you're getting external rotation of both the hips and the shoulders. Once again, we are accessing the space that we created in the anterior hip capsule. Think about how you can relax to maximize the external rotation of the hips and utilize the room that we created in that anterior hip crease. Lantern. All very prideful. Was not self-reliant. It required the effort. Men to come, change, fuel, the wick. Clean and polish the glass on its sides so that its illumination could be spread at the maximum potential. And it, of course, was, because it was valued throughout the forest. One winter, a particularly harsh winter, the snow had piled up so deeply the crew couldn't make it to the lantern. For days. And the wind accompanying this storm was fierce. And the gusts started to sway the lantern violently in the wind. In those gusts, a little bump against the lantern stand earthed a tiny crack in the glass. Not much that anyone would notice, but it was there. Eventually, the snow melted away. The fuel was refilled, and the glass cleaned. That pressure of cleaning allowed that crack to expand just a little bit more. Give ourselves about 90 more seconds here. Thinking again about the neutral exchange between the lumbar and the ilium, the advantageous expansiveness of the external rotation of the hips, and that constant fluidity within your breath. And it feels appropriate. Bring our knees back to neutral. We can take that prop and give it a little half fold, place that between our knees, and then allow the knees to fall over to the left. And with the knee falling, stack your hips. So tuck that left hip underneath the right. And with your right arm, extend overhead, palm facing upward. Think about the distance between the armpit and the top of the ilium, that bony structure. And really draw length along this lateral edge. Draw your breath into that armpit space on the right side. That you feel the expansiveness, that engagement, that elongation of the lateral chain. And when it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. Bring the right arm back to neutral and let the knees fall to that second side, the right side. Once again, stack the hips and then extend that left arm towards the space above you, behind you, depending on how you're describing that. Thinking about this lateral expansion here. It's intercostal, it's wrapping into the lat, it's up into this pec minor region, the whole lateral chain. And relaxing into the space as you breathe your inhale breaths, the armpit. Bring our knees back to neutral when you're ready. Arm can come back to neutral. And we can take that prop out from in between the knees. Set that to the side somewhere. Let the arms find cactus and find a little dynamic sway here. Really allowing your body to explore the edges of your rotational capacity. Thinking about keeping those shoulders anchored, but at the same time, energizing that top hip into deeper and deeper twists. Maybe the next time that we head over to the left, let's let the knees find a static spot to land. And we don't really think about how the lateral chain impacts our ability to rotate because it's generally a hip restriction or a lumbar restriction. But see if you can incorporate that lateral chain length into ease of the twist here. Can you use that right side openness to allow the knees to be more relaxed to the left? We'll give ourselves about 50 more seconds here on this first side. And we'll bring our knees back to neutral. And let the knees fall over to that second side using this lateral chain length that we've created on the left side of the body to let the knees fall more delicately to the right. One summer night, when the path that the lantern illuminated was at its peak traveling capacity, a summer storm blew through, swaying the lantern in the wind, and it bumped up against its lantern post again. And the glass pane with the crack shattered. And the wind quickly blew out the flame. The lantern went dark. Being that it was peak travel season, it wasn't long before a traveler came through. And with the light gone, this particular section of the forest was shockingly dark. They paused. And sat in stillness for quite some time. 20 seconds here on the second side. When it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. And as the knees find their way to neutral, as this pelvic bowl finds its way into stillness, think about how you can adjust, you can shift, you can maximize the shape, your preparedness for Shavasana. And then when you're ready, let's find our way into our physical version of Shavasana. As we prepare for our version of stillness. This morning. As the traveler's eyes adjusted, they began to slowly make their way down the path. One foot delicately after the other. Very carefully, the traveler transcends the path. On the other side, they find out that the lantern's out, and they go back and have the traveler show them exactly where. We'll start to bring some movement to our fingers and our toes. And they get to the point, the darkest point in the forest, where this lantern was hung. It's a very important lantern. And they ask this traveler how he made it without the light. Movement into your wrists and your ankles. And he says, I used the shadows. The contour of the shadows let me know where obstacles might be. And so I was able to avoid them. Movement up into your elbows, your knees, your shoulders, and your hips. The lantern hears this, and of course is immediately humbled. Movement up into your neck, through your shoulders, to your head, to your jaw, to your eyes. Let the hips fully move the spine, and we'll eventually utilize that movement to transition from the shape we are in, and we'll find our way into a seat. Seated space, spine gets nice and aligned, nice and tall, breath gets fluid, eyes closed. Finding your way to ease here. And with your next inhale, we'll bring our hands together, heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you remind yourself that we can receive guidance from both the light and the shadows? See how that impacts you. Thank you so much for being a part of this morning's practice. and for being you. Namaste. Happy Sunday. Love the heck out of you guys. Have a beautiful rest of your day. I will be back tomorrow night. If you want to move, I'll see you then. If not, see you next week. Love you. Bye.